Peace Commission meeting to order. We decided last time that we would share the reading of the, what's it called? Yes. We were going to move from youngest first to oldest. Yeah.
Before we get to that, let's do a quick roll call.
Okay.
Commissioner Downs? Here. Mr. Dupuy does not appear to be here. Commissioner Lee? Here. Commissioner Johns?
Here.
Commissioner Locke?
Here.
Commissioner McQuaid?
Here.
And Commissioner Yu.
Here. I start?
Go for it.
City of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated Villages of, is this John? How you pronounce it? John? Okay. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to this indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. Thank them for their contributions which have transformed our community, and we will continue to bring forth growth and unity. City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe, and together build a better future for all that now make this their home.
Thank you. So Commissioner Dupuy has arrived.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So shall we approve the minutes?
Does anyone care to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 20th?
Motion to approve the minutes?
I'm sorry?
I so moved.
Okay.
Need a second?
All right, well, let's vote then. Commissioner Johns?
Aye.
Commissioner Dupuy?
Aye.
Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Johns?
Aye.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Commissioner McQuaid?
Aye.
Commissioner Yu?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
And it's time for public comment, but there doesn't seem to be a public. So what do we do in that case?
Yeah, let me check online. There doesn't appear, there are attendees. No one has their hand up, though. So I guess you can give it a few seconds and then move on. Okay, well, no one's present and no one online is raising their hands, so we can move on.
Right. And do we have any announcements?
Yes, I actually do have an announcement. One moment. And this is in regards to the incident that I think you guys have probably already heard about that occurred in kind of near the Target at the Toyota repair location. One second. Okay, so there was a shooting today at 1025 East Shore Highway, necessitating response by multiple public safety agencies, including both the City of Berkeley and the City of Albany. One female worker was shot and killed. The shooter is also dead. The incident remains under ongoing investigation at this time. Frankly, that's as much as I know about it too. So you can ask questions, but I probably won't have an answer. So I just want to let everyone know that the city's obviously well aware of it and both Albany and Berkeley are trying to get to the bottom of it.
And when you say female worker,
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I assume it's a worker who works at the Toyota dealership or the repair.
okay.
And that's the only announcement I have, so.
So can we expect to learn more when information is available?
Sure. I can update you on whatever's happened in the interim at the next meeting.
Right? And moving on, I guess, to presentations. We discuss the work plan.
So there's no presentation scheduled. I think the main thing to get to is just getting, reviewing and hopefully approving the work plan. And there's still no members of the public, so we can just move on to that business.
Move on to what, I'm sorry?
So I move on to the next agenda item, which would be discussions and possible action on matters related to the following items, and then 6-1 is the work plan. If it would make it easier for you guys, I can share.
Yeah, are there any hard copies available?
Oh,
All right, because I thought I could open it on my phone, but I can't.
I'll try to share my screen too.
Oh, no, I don't mind sharing. Thank you.
There we go. I'll make it a little bigger. It's a little, kind of have to squint to read it up there. This is what the subcommittee drafted.
Is there a spokesperson for the subcommittee?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Would it be more appropriate if one of the committee members went through it?
That probably would make the most sense, but it's up to you. I think, yeah, the people who had a hand in drafting it probably know it best, so
Okay.
that's a sensible way to do it.
You want to do it or you want Peggy to do it? Okay, Commissioner McQuaid, would you like to proceed?
So the subcommittee was myself, Chair Johns, and Alex. And we met shortly after our last meeting so that at least I wouldn't forget anything. And basically, this was taken off of our discussion of our work plan at our last meeting, which was in July. So we, the regular reports that we will hopefully be receiving we need to prioritize with staff exactly how this will work, how often is feasible to receive these reports, and how often it's really necessary. And what we thought of as sort of standing items were use of force, traffic control, crime data, calls to schools, including non-public schools, and types of calls and locations. Those are just sort of the regular parts of our agenda. Recurring action items, receive and provide recommendations, including a no-action recommendation on complaints, convey questions from the public to the department's representative, report to the city council on any issues of which they should be aware, and make policy recommendations to the council on matters under our purview. And let me also just add to this that these are also taken off of the council resolution. And then to receive briefings on policies and policy changes, training and recruitment, the complaint policy, we talked a little bit about that last time. To learn more about what the Crisis Act, Albany Crisis Team Act is it's a new program, so how it's functioning and what their successes are, and maybe some of their challenges. Structure, including the negotiation process, data, what's available publicly and when is it available, and then the budget. And our one-time action item would be to, at some point, recommend to council desired qualifications and qualities of any potential consultant. In writing any work plan, you want it to be broad enough that you don't get boxed into a very small range of topics that you can discuss. So this is sort of the overarching work plan. And we would like to recommend that individual agendas are built allowing for discussion on regular reports, which will include their scope and definition. For example, a briefing on negotiations would include what's being negotiated, who does it, and what the role of this commission would be. That's what we're proposing as the work plan.
Any comments? Member Downs?
No, go ahead first.
I just wanted to say I was, I was so impressed when I opened this and once again, when it described now. I was obviously on Zoom and I appreciate your forbearance in that. But I think this accurately and clearly conveyed the discussion and a couple of small things. But most of it I wanted to stop first by saying, I thank the subcommittee members. Later, when we're doing some small questions, I have one or two of those.
Member Downs, your mic wasn't on.
Sorry, do you want me to say it again?
Yeah.
Word for word? Especially thinking this up.
Clip notes, whatever, however you want to do it.
All right, I apologize for the mic problem. Is that better?
Is the light on?
Sounded like
Green light?
There we go, now it's on. All right, sorry. I apologize for my technical failure. Primarily, I said I wanted to thank the subcommittee for their work in accurately conveying and painstakingly conveying our discussion in our previous meeting, and that I think this is a spectacularly successful platform for us to work on, and I will probably return with a couple of just clarifying or elaborating questions as we go along, but mostly to thank them.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so I guess my question would be, is this the time that we would sort of hone in on those questions or specifications he was talking about? Like, so one of the items is under briefings. I kind of wanted, or my thought was that we would have regular reporting on the Albany crisis team, like, kind of data about what kind of calls are going on and the results of those calls. Is this going to be the meeting where we sort of clarify all of those things that we said we would want regular reporting on, if that's going to be monthly, quarterly, or yearly? Or how do we determine the frequency that we're going to receive that data and from whom?
I think our thinking was we would first clarify what our desires would be, and then we would get input from staff as to whether there were any prohibitions or limits to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'm wondering then, as a follow-up question, I mean, I understand we've had a couple of days here with the police department where they've been particularly busy, especially today. And yesterday, I understand there was also an incident in the water. I don't know if that's something we're going to discuss, but so I understand why they're not here. But are we going to have a meeting where we can expect them to be here so we can understand what data is available to us, what is readily available, or what's sort of eye in the sky? I want to know what's reasonable to ask for and what is asking too much.
I can't go into too much depth about that until there's sort of a work plan in place, but I sort of gave the department a heads up about what kind of data you guys were talking about at the last meeting. So they know sort of what they're to expect from you guys, but I sort of kept that in a holding pattern until there's actually a work plan in place. So once that's done, then I can sort of get more specifics about what they just have, how often it's updated, how often it can be presented. And I can't speak to, Chief Geisberger or any of the other officers' schedules, but I would imagine that they at least visit from time to time and put on the occasional, briefing or presentation about a various topic that you're getting into on a given meeting. And there's definitely been discussion of having the crisis team give a presentation and sort of discuss their program. So none of that's like sort of set in amber yet, but it's being discussed.
So the understanding is we have to be proactive in inviting a representative of the police department to be here.
I will help with that process, but it's going to be sort of a collaborative discussion between the commission and me and you as chair to sort of line up those, appointments, if you want to call them that.
Okay, I guess,
And do we have any thoughts about that?
well, I was just gonna, you're talking about presentations. I'm wondering if we're just gonna get some like raw data that we could ourselves look at, just, I don't know that we necessarily need a representative from the police department or whatever to like present the data in a PowerPoint. I mean, if they would like to do that on maybe certain of these topics, but I feel like some of these things could just be provided to us as commission in sort of a raw data form, and we can, I think, have the capability to sort of analyze the data for ourselves and identify if there seems to be a pattern or an issue that needs to be.
Sure, yeah, I sort of need to get a better idea about how their data is kept and what they're comfortable just handing over, but I see what you're saying, and it's a good point, so.
Comfortable, does that include obligated?
Well, I need to find out what they have and are what they can give and how often. And I'm not going to stick my nose too far into their business, but I'll do what I can to get the data that you ask for. And the department rep will attend as needed based on agenda items and available info. So when they know that something's on the agenda that requires them to provide a quick briefing or a presence, they will plan their schedules accordingly.
All right.
The work plan that was shared with us via email is different than the one that's printed out in front of us. So, like, for example, briefings in the PDF online is under one-time action items, and it's not the printed out version.
So that change it wasn't really a substantive change. It was just moving things from one heading to another. And frankly, full disclosure, I wasn't the one who made that change. So I was just told about it shortly before the meeting myself. I don't think it makes any substantive difference. I think all the information is still the same. But you're correct to point that out.
Member Downs?
Prefer that format because I did have some questions about if we were going to list, as the one on the email did, the number of things as one-time briefings like ACT. That seemed unlikely to me that will. So I do like this and the one that we passed around more. For Commissioner Dupuis, that regular reports on ACT, makes sense to me. Also, regular general data on complaints, not on the the people impacted, and recognizing the need for confidentiality, but just so that we know, we've had none this quarter, or they've skyrocketed this quarter, because that seems to me like a key thing that members of the public would want to know. Those would be the two pieces that I would move into regular reports. On traffic control, this may just be a wording issue. Just to, state for myself, I certainly want regular reports on that, and I also would want it to include data that the department will be collecting, if it isn't already, on stops, including racial data on stops. So to me, that's I'm okay with traffic control being part of it if that's what we, that being part of traffic control, if that's how we all feel. But I'm also, would be glad to spell that out so there's no doubts about that.
And I would like to ask a question. Am I the only person who is interested in getting an overview of how the department has worked in the past as far as complaints? It seems like we're coming in here blind. And I would like to have some sense of what the history, the approach, whatever difficulties or challenges the department has had in the past, just to get some sense of, okay, here's a starting point for us as a commission. Does that make sense?
Just so I can make sure that I understand what you're saying. So you want some historical sort of perspective on the process. If a formalized complaint was brought, what was the process? Where did it go from the time whomever from the public brought it to the police, whether it came through the front door or via email or through phone call, whichever way that it came into the police department, what happened to it from there, what that process looked like from its initiation to its resolution. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm not talking about second guessing as much as I am getting a sense of what we can actually do to improve the process. And I think getting a better understanding of the process is a good first step.
I agree.
Anyone else?
So where on this work plan would that be a one-time action item, maybe? Like have them review what their process has been? Or would that be, I don't know.
I would just leave it as a briefing on the complaint policy and request a little background.
Okay.
I think that makes sense. You can say complaint policy and past practice there, and also add regular updates on new complaints as they come in, that it can appear twice.
And we do have that under recurring. The first bullet point.
That's right, the recommendations. I guess it would also be helpful if, maybe that will, in conveying recommendations, we'll be able to quickly aggregate the data in a way that makes that clear. Could also receive data and provide recommendations or something there.
Is there any ETA on when some of this information might start flowing through us so we can start taking some kind of action?
I'm not going to say anything too definitively, but I wouldn't imagine that it would take more than 1 or 2 more sessions to start getting stuff to you. The first thing that needs to happen is obviously getting the work plan approved by council. And I've been informed that it's unlikely that the very next meeting, which is in the early October, there's going to be room on the agenda, but the one after that is a possibility. And that's all speculative. I can't make any promises about it, but that's the hope would be the mid-October council meeting might be when this gets approved. And just as a sort of procedural comment, generally when work plans for commissions and committees go before council, it's the chair who presents it and requests approval. But if the commission wants to do it a different way, you're welcome to discuss it.
Is there anything formal we need to do in order to get it on this council's agenda?
Once you guys have approved it, I will let the clerk know, and it sort of gets put, I guess, sort of in line, like in queue.
Okay.
And like I said, I was told that the queue for this very next meeting's already looking full, so.
So we don't have to send somebody to a council meeting and like formally request to be on the agenda?
No.
Okay. Want to make sure.
Member Downs?
In our previous discussion, I guess I just wanted to convey what I was hoping to, how I'm distinguishing between data about complaints and recommendations. I mean, my assumption is some of the complaints might require significant and justifiably significant and long-lasting and long-standing investigation before there's a recommendation. And I think, we would be well-served to know, are we not yet receiving complaints to give recommendations to, because there are none, or because they're part of this investigative process, right? If we get a spike in complaints, I would hope that we would know that as a data point even before we would know the actual first-level resolution of those complaints that we would, respond to.
I have a question too. Are we at all interested in learning from the other commissions like Berkeley, or getting some sense of, okay, this is what's worked for us? And
Do we know if, other municipalities around us have a similar commission and how long they've been, working? And I think it would be good as a commissioner on this commission personally to investigate that, independently. I don't know that we need to do it in a formal way, but it would be interesting to go sit in on maybe one of their meetings and see what's on their work plan and the kind of things that they're discussing.
You need to be sure you find a commission that is sort of, for lack of a better term, lateral to us. There are lots and lots of different types, and we don't want to be comparing apples and bananas.
so, how do we decide that? Do we want to come up with some guidelines in order to decide, okay, this commission is parallel to us, this one is not?
You can look on different cities' websites, see what their committees and commissions look like. Look at how they were formed. You can do all that work.
Okay. So
Are you talking about like they're at parity because of the city size, demographics?
Some
or
commissions
what?
have staff, they have their own attorneys, they work totally independent. We can't compare with them,
Right.
because that's not what we're here to do. So you want to find one that functions as we do.
As narrowly on a work plan item, if we wanted to have that, we could have, invite members from other California jurisdictions, discuss, the functioning of their bodies and practices, best practices, things like that. What we're saying is that we're seeking council authorization to issue that invitation, and we could decide step by step, if a proposal for such an invitation comes in, whether that's one we want to issue.
I'd rather work on what we have here, and if, sort of, as we do this and we sort of establish in our own minds what we are, then I think it makes more sense to reach out. I'm not sure that, because we're brand new, that we really have our feet on the ground yet.
So your sense is it makes more sense for us to fly blind and wait?
I don't think it's flying blind.
Well, it feels like flying blind to me, so I'm sorry, I just used the words that
It's not,
came to me first.
oh, that's okay.
I don't know. I think maybe each of us individually as members of this commission, you know, we have the same resources available to us. I'm sure that all of these meetings, they're public meetings, they're probably on YouTube or, you know, some kind of, we can do a little bit of investigation on our own and, you know, share that information with the rest of the commission when we find it. But just sort of, I think it would behoove us to, look at what other commissions are doing. And to Peggy's point, I mean, maybe some bigger municipalities, they have actual staff, or maybe they have like paid consultants, liaisons, I don't know, obviously. But I think it would serve us to look at commissions that have been at this a little bit longer than us and see what did they put on their work plan? What are the things they're focusing on? What have they accomplished? You know, what are the recommendations they may have made to their councils? And not to say that we're exactly the same, because Albany is unique, as every other town is unique. But it's a good idea, I think, to maybe benchmark the work of other commissions and see what they're doing, to your point. I mean, I feel like, and this is not an insult to anyone on the commission, myself included, because I'm here too, but we've been here for several months now, and I don't know that we've really accomplished anything. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I mean, that's not an insult. I mean, I understand that we're moving at the speed of government, but no, I'd like to see it move a little faster. You know, I mean, I think it was day one, we were like, let's get some data, and here we are, month 4, no data, and we're still talking about it. So I'd like to stop talking about it and start doing something, but that's just me.
Well, I second that emotion. So,
What do we have to do to like move this forward so that we can make this presentable to the council so that at least this part is done and we've checked a box?
This work plan?
Yeah, this work plan. Do we
Do
just,
we need public comment?
Yes.
Before any motions or after the motions, but before?
That's actually a good question.
I don't have strong feelings. I just didn't want to.
like, huh? You confused me.
Here, let me stop sharing that 1 second. Okay. Let's do public comments first and then do motions. So public comment is, we'll open it up now. There is no one in the council chambers. There are a few attendees online, but no one has their hand up. Yes, okay. Mr. Mattson, I think you're on live.
It's Bismouth.
You try? Sorry, technical difficulties. No, that doesn't work. It's not allowing me to unmute this person. Pardon the delay. Hopefully I'll be able to figure this out. Okay. All right, Sydney Mattson, you're on.
Okay, thank you. Basically, so now I've lost sight of you guys. I guess it doesn't matter. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to support the members who are asking to do things rather than talk about doing things. So that's what I'm here to encourage. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no other hands up online, and still no one here. So I think we can move on to motions and the like.
I'll make a motion to approve the work plan as presented.
Do we have a second?
I have a question. So the updates proposed today in this meeting right now, if we move forward with the work plan, would those be incorporated? Or do we have to reconvene as a subcommittee to add those in? Or
I
to
think we could
discuss
have
those further?
amended motion or a separate motion on that.
Okay.
I think that would work, yeah.
In the absence of a second, I will make a motion. Okay. I move that we accept, that we thank the subcommittee, accept the work plan as written, with a couple of additions to add under regular reports ACT, to add under regular reports general data on complaints, to add after traffic control, including data on stops and racial data once available.
Greg, I'm sorry, could you read this, the second one again? I'm sorry.
So under regular reports, to add ACT as a regular report, to add general data on complaints, another bullet under regular reports, and under traffic control, to include in that line, including data on stops and including racial data once available.
I would also like to say, under briefings, when we were speaking about the complaint policy, to add that under that briefing, we would like some historical perspective about how that process has worked.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
That's all. That's all I got.
For my clarification, the request to include racial data, is that in reference to all of the topics included in regular reports? So in other words, we're looking for racial data as it would apply to use of force, as it would apply to traffic control, inclusive of traffic stops, et cetera.
I'm certainly, that's a good question. I was thinking of the racial data because I think because of the state law on traffic stops, but we could include it, but I would be fine with moving that codicil, including racial data as available under the line that says prioritize with staff. No, including racial data where available.
Yeah, I think that it should be included where available, specifically point 1, use of force. I think that would be an important thing to know. Yeah.
Certainly accept that as a friendly amendment.
Lou, could you share your screen and type, and I think you're adding these so we can actually visualize it.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're going to ask you to change screens as much as possible.
One moment. Okay.
I'm going to second this just so we can keep the discussion going. But I have a question for you. I guess I'm not quite clear on the difference between general complaint data, which you've put under regular reports, and receive and provide recommendations on complaints, which is a recurring action item. I'm not differentiating the two.
Yeah, I think it's a very valid question, and I think the only reason I'm differentiating is there may be times when investigations take, understandably, quite a long time before we receive any recommendation on that investigation, and also, the recommendation should move at the pace that provides the rights that are protected under law. At the same time, I would think as a commission that if there were a spike in complaints, we would want to know that as early as we reasonably could, even if there weren't yet recommendations on those complaints.
So would that report basically say this month we had 3 complaints?
Sure.
Okay, now I understand the difference. Thank you.
So actually, that opens up a question for me under the recurring action items, where it says, receive and provide recommendations, including no action on complaints. That recommendation is coming to us or is provided by us? That's my question. So we're receiving the information on complaints. Are we providing any recommendations, or that's all information given to us? I guess,
We provide the recommendation.
right. So,
I wasn't part of the subcommittee, but I suspect they included both because what we receive may well include a departmental or staff recommendation,
Right.
as many things do. Also, I agree with Commissioner McQuaid that then we provide.
right, okay, I was just wanting some clarification. So then, in fact, it does make sense that we would get a regular report on the general data, general information regarding the complaint, and then our recurring action item would be to take that information and potentially make a recommendation if one was called for. That would be the action item.
That's right. The
Okay.
recommendation contemplated by the resolution, if I recall it correctly, is our recommendation would be whether or not council should approve a hiring of a outside consultant.
Okay.
An additional investigation.
Okay.
That's how the resolution.
Okay. Good, thank you, sorry.
Council acts on those. We're not a fiscal body.
Just like at home.
Can we now move on to a vote? Do we have a motion and a second?
Yeah, I think so.
One thing that we haven't, touched on is Commissioner John's question about, the discussion about how to improve our knowledge of how other communities do this. And, there was discussion both about formal ways and also about informal ways, and I imagine both being viable. I didn't want to move on without some contemplation of how we want to respond to that, whether that belongs in the work plan or whether this is.
Let me ask this question. So when we present the work plan to the council and they vote on it one way or the other, is that carved in stone forever and ever? Or is there, is it a working document? Can we make amendments in the future?
We can make amendments, but we need to go to council, and there's a
Right.
whole form you fill out, and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
No, nothing's ever carved in stone.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
But it would, like this, be a number of
Right,
weeks or
right.
months
Again,
process.
yeah.
And in the interim, we wouldn't be able to act.
But I guess with regard to your statement about, sort of benchmarking against other policing commissions, like, I'm not sure that I have a good sense of how we could make that a formalized part of the work plan quite yet. I wouldn't want to exclude it forever, but I also don't know that I personally understand a good way to include it yet. So I do want to vote on this so we can get everything moving forward. I guess that's why I was asking if this is like a set in stone, blood oath or something like that, because I want to make sure that we are moving forward, but also leaving open the opportunity to make changes if necessary down the line.
I think as Commissioner McQuaid said, it's possible to make changes, it's just kind of cumbersome.
Right.
As we've already discussed, this is the third meeting in the fourth month,
Okay.
and we're still getting the work plan finalized, so just be aware that it'll take a little bit of time.
Okay. Well, then I'll just pose the question to my fellow commissioners. Do you feel like that's something that needs to be formalized in the work plan? Or do you all feel like it's something that we could take like the onus on ourselves to do a little bit of, homework on our own? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's one thing I'm kind of wondering. Like, do we need to keep it in the work plan, or could I just, like, let's say, go to Berkeley's next commission meeting and just take notes and stuff? Or would it be better to just formalize it now?
Well, I feel like, I don't know. I will defer to Commissioner McQuaid because she's probably got the most experience on the dais here of dealing with this kind of thing. But I feel like if it's in the work plan, then we're married to it. Like, we're saying we're definitely 100%, all of us are going to go do this, and I'm not sure that we've decided yet if that's the right thing or which city is the right thing or whatever. So I'm of the opinion that we should just sort of take the onus on ourselves to do whatever homework we feel can help us be best, do our jobs best as commissioners individually. And then, we can discuss it here on the dais at the next meeting. If you went to a meeting in Berkeley and something enlightening came to pass and you saw it, certainly I think it would be beneficial to bring it to the rest of us, to bring it to our attention. But I'm not sure that we need to formalize that process. I guess that's the question.
I think you're right, Rebecca. I don't think that we're of a solid mind as to how we want to do that or what the best way is. And I also agree that we need to get this done, get it to council moving. So I would say we just have it sort of in our heads that think about if there's something that you want to do as an individual, that's great, but let's not put it in here right now.
To Commissioner Yu's point, I don't think, you're not forbidden to go to, yeah.
But I wouldn't go and say, hi, I'm here from the Albany Police Commission. That probably would not be good.
Thank you, Commissioner McQuaid.
So the assumption is we're going to be adults and show some self-initiative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think we can do that. I believe in us.
Done a good job of reflecting, out of both in the subcommittee and in the discussion. I wouldn't want to move on without asking you, Commissioner Johns.
I'm satisfied with how the discussion has gone. So, I will take it upon myself to start gathering the information that I want.
I will too.
Do we want, Luke has been writing very ably from my view, but before we call the question, which then I think requires a vote, do we want to actually just look on the screen and I believe, from my perspective, Luke has recorded the things that we have talked about as changes, but we should all know what we're voting on. And that is, I think, what we would vote on, what's up there. Is that
Correct, yeah. Member McQuaid, Dupuy, excuse me.
Yes.
You added something to what Commissioner Downs was saying, and not sure I captured that on this yet.
I think it was in the briefings when we were in the, well, now you've added it. You said complaints, policy, and history. So I think that kind of encapsulates what he was getting at, just sort of understanding the historical process
Okay.
so that we can, see if there's room for improving that process. So I think you've done a good job of getting that on there.
All right, then.
Narrowly, I might put comma after action and before the quotation mark under the first of the recurring. Where it says receive and provide recommendations including no action. That's modifying what our recommendations would be. It's not modifying the complaints. So after the action, I would put a comma.
Oh, after no action, okay.
Yeah, inside the quotation marks, but after. And then I believe we need another recurring.
Yes.
There's always a teacher in the room.
I'm sorry.
It looks like you do, okay. Okay,
Yeah. Is that
keep an eye on,
screen moving or am I hallucinating?
it's me, I
Like, what is happening?
usually opened a PDF, not a Word document.
Okay.
So I'm editing, it's a little bit, but I think I've got it.
PDFs is one of the hardest things in the world.
So I think I made the aesthetic changes. Okay. Any other changes or comments before it goes to vote?
In terms of format, this is in keeping with, I know commissions do it, in different ways, but this is within reason of how commissions submit it.
I also have one more question concerning visiting like other commissions. Would we need to like, if we're gonna, since we're gonna formalize it, would we need to like, talk about it with them, right? Or like formalize it with them too, or
You mean formalize it with the other commissions?
I mean like yeah, something like that. Would we need to like talk with them about it first, formalize it, or can we just like do it and?
You're a member of the public.
Yeah, so that's my feeling, like, all of these meetings, just like here, is open to the public. So if you went in for informational purposes, just to sit in on the meeting, like, any of them could sit in here. I don't think it's required that you communicate to them, your role on this commission. You're just listening and observing.
But you have to be careful that he's not representing this commission. He's not representing the city of Albany. And you have to be very clear on that. So it would make more sense to me simply go, have a seat, listen. If you want to say something as a member of the public to what they're discussing, that's fine. But just be really clear that you're not going as a representative of this commission or the city of Albany.
All right, thanks.
Just on that topic, I would also mention, you can sort of just do your homework, so to speak, individually and go attend other meetings or watch videos of old meetings, whatever the case may be. And then the time that you could report back to the commission about it would be during announcement time, potentially. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on the agenda for you to just mention what you've learned.
Okay, let's vote.
Roll call.
Does someone need to formally call the question, or feels to be like the general will is to vote? I will call the question if you want, or someone else can. Since my
The mic is on, right?
Yes.
My light is on. Am I not talking closely enough to it? Sorry.
I can hear him.
Oh, there you go. Usually people say I'm too loud.
Yeah, well, I think you can just move to adopt the work plan as amended. I think that would be a sufficient way to tie this knot.
Motion. I move that we adopt the work plan as amended.
Excuse me,
On the screen.
there's a motion on the floor.
There is. That's
There was already
All we need to do is vote.
Yeah,
I agree.
Correct. Oh, who seconded the initial motion?
You made
made
it,
it.
and Peggy
I did second it.
seconded it.
Correct.
Oh, this is like a test.
It's a long time ago. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's vote then. Commissioner Downs,
Yes.
Commissioner Dupuy,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Johns,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Commissioner McQuaid,
Yes.
Commissioner Yu.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. This work plan, as amended, will be presented to council at the soonest opportunity. I can't say yet when that is.
Will we get notified when it will be presented? So if we elected to come to that council meeting, we could.
Send you guys
All right.
a note letting you know. Yeah.
Luke, could you send us, since we have all these modifications, could you just email us the new plan?
Sure,
Thank you.
absolutely.
I think Commissioner Dupuy's suggestion, implied suggestion that, those of us so moved go is a good one. The chair will present ours, but we all can speak as members of the public.
Yeah.
So, shall we move on?
Yes, I think, I'm actually not entirely sure. I think we should open up for public comment. Again, there's no one in the council chambers, and no one raising their hand in the public, so, I take that back. Having trouble getting Ms. Mattson audio again. Here we go. Okay, Ms. Mattson, you're on. Or not? No, I'm being informed that we weren't supposed to do public comment now. My mistake. Apologize. Right, we're moving on to future agenda items.
I'd like to suggest something building off of what a number of commissioners, including Commissioner Dupuy, have said. Can we put on a request for an agenda item of a general update from the department? I think, many of, we received, information at our first meeting, and literally, it can be as broad as an update of any changes, things of note from the department since then. And if possible, including update on, incidents that, have drawn public attention or should. I'm not certain whether we could put an agenda item about policy updates, even though they're part of the resolution, because of the question of whether we need the work plan before we could ask for policy updates. But I would also be pleased for an agenda item for update on any policy, and, for information or briefing on any policy updates that they're available for and are in keeping with our liminal status.
I'll make a note of that.
Also, based on, the nature of today and yesterday here in our town, with the shooting down at Toyota and with the body washing up by the Golden Gate Fields yesterday, as a police commission, would it be out of line to ask that, we're on some sort of, I don't know, short list of like real-time notifications when things like this happen? I mean, I do know that when the incident happened yesterday with the police responding to the body in the water, I do know that the council people were notified. Like, they got, not with very much detail, but I do know that they were notified. And as a police commission, I feel like if it's a police matter, we should sort of also be on the short list of those kinds of notifications. Is that out of line to ask for? I don't know. Is that something we could discuss on the agenda, or?
I mean, I can take that question back to the city and the department and see what's possible. I don't know right now.
I mean, certainly not every, thing that goes on, but things like this that are of.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some logistical issues about what merits it and what doesn't, and what the mechanics of an update would look like. But I can talk it over with the department and see what's available, what's possible.
And
I can't offer any ideas about what that looks like at this point.
would it be possible to add to the next meeting's agenda a briefing on the shooting? Like, to be specific about it, I think Member Duns may have alluded to it, but just to list it out.
I'll check, yeah. If, at the very least, I can probably provide an announcement. It depends on whether there's new information available. It's, but yeah, I'll look into that too. I'll make a note of it. Okay. Any other future agenda items you want to discuss? Okay, let's open up to public comment just for 1 minute now. Still no one in the chambers? Okay. Right, Ms. Mattson, you're on.
Yeah, I was just wanting to ask, when commission person is speaking, is it any way the camera could focus in so that I can see who is talking?
I don't know to what extent that's possible. I know we try, but it's difficult. So, yeah, I'll let the people who run the video know of your suggestion, but I can't really do anything about it right this minute. Thank you for your comment, though.
I don't know what the technology is like up there, but, those nests, they do that. I don't know if that's
I think
capable
one
of
of the
that.
cameras up there can move.
Okay, yeah.
There's one that's
Station there.
stationary.
Yeah.
Okay, and there are no other public comments at this time. So we're moving on to number 8, which is the next meeting.
Next meeting,
Which is October 19th, 2023 at 7 p.m. as usual. Third Thursday of the month.
I don't know when the right time to bring this particular thing up is, but I have torn my ACL, so I will be having knee surgery probably in the first part of November, which means I may miss the November meeting. I can probably report remotely. Who do I need to communicate that to? I completely forgot all my training on that.
Just let me know what
Okay.
you need, and we'll get it sorted out.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
That's why they call me a liaison. All right, next meeting, and did that, and I don't think there's any other business tonight.
You need a motion to adjourn? No.
All right.
All right, thank
Well,
you.
it's 8:01, and this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Admirable efficiency.